Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Dotson and I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation, The What, Why, and How of Mobile Business Intelligence. Before we get started with any of the introductions, I'd like everyone that has an iPhone or an iPad to go ahead to the Apple's iTunes Store or easily JackBe.com/mobile and download our Presto mobile app, and it's available for either the iPhone or the iPad. We're going to be using it in today's presentation. So just take the next 2 minutes as we walk through the introductions to go ahead and do that. So we'll start with some logistics. Today, first, we are recording today's presentation, so we're going to be making the recording and the slides available on JackBe.com a little later today. We'll also send a follow-up note to all the attendees and registrants tomorrow morning. We do encourage open communication throughout this presentation, so please type your questions in the chat box in the right-hand corner of your screen. We'll do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, and then time permitting, we'll have an open Q&A at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. Start with a little background about JackBe. JackBe's been around since about 2002. We are the leading solution provider of real-time business intelligence. You can see that JackBe's been globally deployed to over 100 enterprises and government agencies. Some very notable government agencies on the right-hand side of your screen, and then also commercial businesses. We've won many awards over the past few years. Most recently, we've been noted as the top 10 enterprise products in 2010. So today's special guest, we've got John Krupe, our Chief Technology Officer. John's formerly the CTO of Sun SOA Practice and also a Sun Distinguished Engineer. He's also the co-author of Core J2E Patterns. He's a frequent blogger, and for those of you that live in the Washington, D.C. area, you know that he has been a two-time Washingtonian tech titan. So let's review today's agenda. We'll start with mobile business intelligence, how it enables decisions everywhere. And we'll talk a little bit about how mobile business and business intelligence applies to people and data in motion. We'll talk about our approach to mobile business intelligence. We'll do some demonstrations about how you can build mobile apps in minutes, and then we'll end with some of the benefits that mobile BI offers to your organization. So for those of you that joined the call a little late, like we talked about in the beginning, we are going to be using our Presto mobile apps that are available on Apple's iTunes Store. So please take the next few minutes to go ahead and download those apps. They're available either JackBe.com/mobile, follow the links at the top of the page, or you can download them on your device or through the iTunes Store. So I'll pass it to John, and he'll go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks, Jess. So what we want to do is we want to really dig into the mobile solutions that we have, especially from a BI perspective, and just show you that so much of this is about speed and time to value. So we want to start off with a quick demo, and we want to show you how quickly we can go from data to information to you, right into your device. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a live demo of Chris Warner, our VP of Marketing. He will be building this live for you, and it'll take about a minute. And within a minute or two, you'll be able to pull this created app on your device.
Hi, everybody. So I get to be the proverbial non-techie in the room, and I actually am. I think that's why I get the job for the day. And I timed myself a little earlier. For those of you who have a watch on, you're welcome to turn it on. I managed to do what I'm going to do this morning in less than about 3 minutes. So today, what I hope to do is to do exactly what Jess promised you that we were going to do. We're going to take advantage of the app that we have created and published for free on Apple's App Store called Presto Mobile for iPad and Presto Mobile for iPhone. And for those of you who don't have it, don't worry, you won't be left behind. Hopefully, we'll be able to at least give you an idea of what's going on and what those people with phones and pads are seeing. So for those of you who have the phone and the iPad app, do me a favor, go ahead and just take the credentials that are already on the screen and go ahead and just say sign in. And it should take you to a page full of different views of information. And I think if you scroll down, you'll probably count about 9 of them right now. And what we're going to do is, while I'm sitting here, I'm going to create yet another view of information, and then I'm going to publish that, and in just a couple of short minutes, it will show up as one of the views that you can now access on that server. So I'm logged into the same server as me. I'm going to go ahead and we'll explain a lot of the background of this a little bit later. I think today, this first demo, we just want to do the very quick, very dirty, right, John?
Yeah, I think let's just show how fast we can get this to them.
Okay, So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the Browse button. And remember, I'm logged on as somebody with privileges that let me, unlike you, you're logged on as a guest, that let me access the stuff behind the scenes. I'm going to take a look at all the databases that my IT guys have kindly published for me. I'm going to pick one. Here's one that's interesting to me because it's moving data. It's unit sales. Actually, no, I like product revenue, in fact. So we'll go ahead and click product revenue. So this is, in fact, we'll take a quick peek at it. And then after we've taken a quick peek at it, we'll slap a view on it, and then we'll take that view and we'll deliver it all to you guys. Oh, okay. So Jess tells me that some of the Q&A that some of the people are asking, they want to know about the username and password. So when you download Presto Mobile for iPhone or iPad, it comes pre-configured with a set of default username, password, and server. That's a demo server that it's pre-configured to connect to. That's the same demo server, in fact, that I'm logged on to. And so that's the idea. We wanted you to be able to play with Presto Mobile and Presto behind the scenes without having to download, install, configure, do all that sort of stuff.
What you're seeing is your Presto Mobile is pointing to the exact server that Chris is working on.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at unit sales by product by month. That's a database that one of my IT guys has made available to me. It looks like the data is fairly straightforward. It's for 6 months, January to June. Looks like there's a few views, as I call them, already put on top of the data. There's a simple table. There's it looks like an overlaid stack chart, but I don't like either of those, so I'm going to go and I'm going to pick one of my own. So in this case, I'm going to pick a bar chart. I'm going to organize the course by month, and then I'm interested in looking at maybe at only our consumer-oriented. Imagine for a moment that I'm a product manager, and I want to compare and contrast month-by-month sales for our consumer products. So those would be cars, trucks, and vans, and motorcycles. But not necessarily the boats or any other kind of vehicle. So all I'm doing is dragging and dropping. I'm going to do some limited formatting. So this is cars, trucks, and vans, right? Oh, and boats, right? I could go in advanced mode, add an awful lot of, well, pretty colors, formatting, things that make the data more lively and actually easier to pick out. I'm going to skip this time. We'll do this in more detail when we go through demo number 2, because I did give myself a time limit. And so I'm already up to a view. And keep in mind that I'm a non-techie, so I don't want to have to program, right? I just want to be able to select the way this works, the way it displays, and how it gets delivered.
And you're connected into the live data here.
I am. I'm connected into a authoritative sales database. So you notice that I can take a look at how this looks in different form factors and different destinations. This becomes important, I think, later, right, John?
Yeah, but I think it's important for people to know that this is showing you exactly what it's going to look like and what you're going to get. So it makes sense to be able to turn things off that won't look good and that won't work well.
I think in this case, I just clicked through kind of all the different destinations, right? A browser, a phone in portrait mode, a phone in landscape mode, a tablet, and I think they all look good. So when I'm done, so this is my sales chart. When I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and make it available to all those users. So now I have that view saved along with, along with that data source, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the button that says Create App. I'm going to skip this first page again. I think we'll do this in more detail later. And you'll notice that my sales chart is added to the list of different views. I'm going to turn off the other 2 views that were already here. These were made by someone else, maybe for their own purposes. I don't like them. I don't need them. They don't help me answer my question. So in this case, I'm going to create, this single view, and that's what I'm going to publish. Again, just like kind of the view creation process, the publishing process is supposed to be non-techy, right? So I can point and click. In fact, I can point and click even while I'm talking, and walk through the simple process of skinning it, if you will. So this is my sales chart for, Jess, can you tell me somebody who's in the audience?
Believe me, it's not easy to point, click, and talk.
It's
Why don't we do Marvin?
Marvin. All right. So this is my sales chart for Marvin. Mind you, everybody's going to see this that's using iPads and iPhones. But nonetheless, so we'll make it very specific.
And the app click on the bottom.
Oops. Excellent point. So I forgot to go, and I forgot to publish this for those users, right?
That's right.
All right. So all back up. I'll do it again.
And
I want him to see that process.
Yeah, you notice that when Chris didn't select those two, this is because we want you to be able to select the different apps that the views you have, and so it makes sense. So if you caught a quick view of that, you saw that there was only a desktop view because he didn't click tablet and smartphone.
You're right, and that's one of the hazards of talking and clicking at the same time. So I think that this is something that is it should be accessible from users from different destinations, right? So Marvin, my apologies. I'll take another shot at it. There. So and we'll categorize it. We'll tag it. We can describe this as this is sales information. So this is in the Northeast region, and we can give it more tags. So we take advantage of a lot of the common classification techniques that I think people are used to at this point. So now I've got something that's ready to push to Marvin and to anybody else who has the iPhone or the iPad app. And so in my case, I'm going to click on this button that says Publish to App Depot. Pay no attention to the red warning messages on the screen. In this case, it's just warning me that I didn't do everything I could have done. I could have attached screenshots. Anybody who's been to the iTunes store, usually you can see previews, for instance. I didn't do that in this case.
And this is a small but very effective governance or curating process that goes on.
Right. And then last but not least, there is an administrative step, just like in the iTunes store, where somebody reviews what's been submitted. And in my case, in spite of the fact that I'm missing screenshots and descriptions, I'm going to publish it. So I'm going to make it available to all users. That includes guests, like the folks who are logged on to Presto Mobile for iPhone, Presto Mobile for iPad, and then I'm going to approve it. And then this is the magic part. So for those of you who are logged into Presto Mobile for iPad, or Presto Mobile for iPhone, do me a favor, go to the upper right-hand corner of the screen and hit the button that is a circle. Because what I want you to do is to refresh the apps that are available to you and have it show up on your screen. And
So
I'll wait.
We're doing the same thing here, making sure that we can get the apps that you're accessing. And unfortunately, we're unable to show you the screen of the iPad or iPhone working just because just of the way that the displays work and the fact that we don't have a camera for it. But you'll see that.
Well, in a few minutes, we'll actually show them a recording we've made of an iPad, Presto Mobile for iPad in action. For those who, of course, have the mobile iPad or Presto Mobile for iPad, Presto Mobile for iPhone, what they should actually have on their list is a brand new app that says My Sales Start for Marvin. For those who don't, of course, remember, we also publish this for desktop viewing, right? So in our case, we even make desktop viewing really easy. There is what we call the App Depot, and I can actually bring up Marvin's chart. And as you can see, of course, I don't have any screenshots. I probably should have done that.
You probably should have put it.
It would have made it more user-friendly. But certainly, this is the same app that everybody can go and access from Presto Mobile. So the idea, though, is to go from, as I think as Jess's slide showed, is a simple demo from a data source, an authoritative scale data source, to an end user like Marvin in the field without any impediment to that process. So taking advantage of what Marvin has in his hands, an iPhone or an iPad. Marvin, forgive us for using you as kind of our stunt stand-in. I do hope you at least have an iPhone or an iPad, so you see what I mean. And so the idea was to see how quickly that could be done from authoritative data, right? This is live information that Marvin's looking at.
Now, we timed this without Chris speaking, and it was 1 minute and 28 seconds. So with Chris speaking, it tripled that, but that's just to get the point across. But you can see how quickly we can do this, and it's all live, so Chris actually redid it twice. Okay, so that's great. So people are seeing it. If there's any questions, just type to the console there. All right, now we're going to go back, and we're going to give you more details and in-depth presentation, get a little underneath the covers and show you actually what we're doing with the data, because this isn't just connecting into a single data source and then just displaying it on the device. This is actually doing a lot more. But ultimately, this is around mobile BI, right? And the reason why we're talking about mobile BI, because we think, and the analysts think, that this is going to be the big up-and-comer when it comes to BI. And that's because decisions happen everywhere. People are in motion. Problems are in motion. Data's in motion. So it only makes sense that mobile BI really lends itself to the new burst in interest in the devices, and at a rate that we probably have never seen before. So what does this really mean in terms of the types of things that you're looking for and what you're doing with mobile BI? Well, we think that the real killer app for mobile BI is the tablet. And why? It has everything going for it. And you could just see that Forrest Evelson from Forrester, tablet PCs. I mean, he's calling them tablet PCs, but most people refer to them as the tablet, just right for mobile BI. It has the right real estate. It has the speed of always being on. It connects into information. It's visually appealing. It's extremely fast to maneuver through. And part of the mobile BI space is probably 90% consumption oriented, which means we're swiping through information and looking at things. Very little information entry, might be selecting, but that's about the extent of it, so the tablet's perfect for that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hear from you, and we're going to see what are you actually using in your organization. So which mobile devices, if any, are you allowed to use for your corporate apps? Now, we're not just talking about email here. We're actually talking about apps, and it's okay if you know it's early for many organizations. You may not have any apps yet, but what we're really interested in is understanding the policies in place. We're understanding that what are you allowed to use in your organization, because not are we just talking about supply by your corporations or organizations, but this is bring your own device, which is a big phenomenon that's happening. So IT organizations are being forced, in essence, to come up with solutions a lot faster because people are demanding them. The workforce is bringing their own device in and at a rapid rate, and they want access to the information that they haven't had before.
Before today's webcast started, we had something of a debate, Jeff, John, and I, about if anybody would answer choose option number 5. You know, my thesis was that, you know, the mobile market, the mobile world is still somewhat messy, right? Most organizations haven't sorted it all out, and I actually think that probably, you know, might turn out to be a fairly popular choice from the survey.
Yeah. So, all right, we're just about done now. Most of the votes are in. We're about 60%, and we're keep typing in the message, the questions. We're getting a bunch of questions coming in, and we'll answer those that are at the end of the presentation or as we see fit. So there you go. So smartphones and tablets both the lead are 56%. That's quite surprising that if you think about this, that the point here is that you're allowed to use for your corporate apps. Smartphones being a little ahead, and both together, which is great. And none, we understand that. A lot of organizations just really don't know yet what they're going to do, and I don't know is definitely a well understood policy. Okay, so let's keep going here, and let's just, it's not just us saying this, the analysts are really talking about this, and the interesting thing about this is it's not just BI analysts, it's analysts in every area that are talking about the mobile phenomenon, and especially on the tablet side. So Howard Dresner, we're a big fan of his. He thinks that his respondents to his survey says that 68% to say that it's critical or very important. Gartner's is actually saying in 2013, 33% of BI functionality will be consumed through handheld devices, and we've heard some estimates that it's even going to be higher. And then I'm going to go to the fourth one. The 22% respondents indicate they're planning to implement. We really like the third one because it's not just talking about who's going to use this, but it's talking about why, and they see it as an accelerator of time to information. And that's really the gist of this here, is that if you need your answers now, you have to go to the office to get those. Can you do them wherever you are? Can you get the same information as it's happening? So not just where you are, but as it's changing, as it's happening. We really want to talk about the same effect that has happened with email, the phenomenon of being able to check your email anywhere, to be able to do mobile BI wherever you are. So we like that time to information concept. Now, this really is starting to impact many more users. So you'll hear analysts talk in BI about being pervasive, both from a destination perspective of where they go, but also the reach. and the types of people that get the information. And it's really starting to change pretty dramatically. It's no longer static reports and static dashboards. We're actually talking more about operational type BI here. And we're talking about operational because it's data in motion. It's things that are changing all the time. And how many of us are always dealing with problems that are changing based on changing information, by changing situations. Some will call it situational BI, others will call it operational BI. But just think about it as a perspective of information changing, problems changing, and the types of people that actually this affects are looking at different levels or granularity of information, but they're all looking at information that's changing, whether it's field technicians, salespeople, line managers, all the way up to the CIO, they may be looking at information. And by the way, when we talk about people in motion and people on the move, we also talk about the different personas and we talk about the data moving. But when we talk about real time here, this is business real time. This is as information changes or as we need it. Some people tend to get down to the millisecond when they hear real time. We're not talking about that on the business side. We're talking about information as it's happening. Could be every minute, could be every hour, could be twice a day. But they want to know when that information changes. So there's some best practices that we're learning. Now, of course, you can't have best practices until you practice. And because this is moving so quickly, we now have some sense of the formulation of some patterns here that we know can be helpful. And we know this because we've been doing this for a while. We've been doing the mobile stuff for about 2 years and have really introduced the optimized platform just recently based on what we've learned. And we've heard from a lot of customers that they wanted to, 2 years ago, build their own app stores that did everything. And they wanted to go and create these large environments, huge infrastructure. And many of our questions came back and asked, what are the applications you're going to target and who are your users? And there was really not a good sense of that. They just wanted to essentially replicate Apple's App Store inside the organization. So the boil the ocean approach, that was failing fast. And that was because it was being approached from the wrong direction, in our opinion. So we saw from that, you definitely need to start small and grow it. How do you get big? Well, you have a lot of small successes. So then we said, you should really be focusing on the applications and reverse it. Go to the business and ask them what they need. Start with the information critical applications. What are the things that they want access to the most when they're using their mobile devices? And these are the things, because these are the types of applications that will give you the biggest interest. We're not talking about big, large CRM or ERP applications. We're talking about BI type applications of information that's organized, and we're looking at information that's changing. It does have some sense of being able to feed information back, but it's mostly about consuming and looking at changing information. So if you start with information critical applications, those are the things that are going to get the most attention at the beginning. And think dashboards for tablets. And think new types of opportunities here. We're seeing a big trend starting to happen where it's not just trying to replicate dashboards you have internally and move them to tablets. It's looking at tablets as a driver of dashboards. Now we think that the dashboards that you create in the mobile device will be just as important running internally in your organization in SharePoint in your portal, but the initial rollouts will probably be on your mobile devices. So think dashboards if you're really starting to target kind of the low-hanging fruit here. And how are you going to do this? How are you going to get security and governance in place? We believe that being able to extend the portal all the way to the device, think of it as a single interface into your organization, a single entry point in, just like you have in a portal internal. Think of how do you replicate a portal external on your device, and how do you do it securely? And the last is, it's a little techy, but the HTML5, you'll see that there's marketing behind it, but it's mostly technical term. It's really a standard-based way of doing web apps. Think about that when you start looking at things, because that means that you're going to preserve your investment. You're pretty safe, at least we believe so, that in choosing HTML5, you'll be able to work across all the devices and all the different platforms now and the future. So it's a standard that's really going to drive this quickly. Okay, so Jess loves this slide, and you'll soon see why. When you're talking about things in motion, it makes a lot of sense to talk about things and show things in motion. So let's go through a scenario here. So we have the mobile man here, or the man in motion, as others will call him. This is like many of us. Some of us we go get our coffee in the morning at Starbucks, and we want to know what were my sales overnight figures. So maybe in the past we would go and get a report sent to us every morning. But in this particular case, Mobile Man is actually going and looking at the information that is really up to date, not only overnight, but actually things that have happened overseas and are still happening. So he goes on his smartphone, and then he goes into the office, and he goes into having his daily meeting. And inside there, the departmental portal is using SharePoint 2010. And now they're very concerned because the snowstorm over the Rockies really affected their supplies. So they need to take some action because they have large supplies that need to go out to their customers, and they have to figure out a plan to be able to react to this. Now, was this a problem yesterday? No, but it's a problem today. So the problem changes just as the information scenario changes. Well, he's on the move, and he's now going over, and he's looking at his production line, and he's wondering why has now the production gone down on Assembly 2, and he has these specialized Android devices that are telling them live information about the production assembly line. Well, he cares about this because this actually has to do with some of the shipments and trying to get these produced faster to get to the destinations because of the snowstorm, but he has this added problem here. So then he goes back to his desk and he logs into his departmental portal, which is LifeRay. And many of you, this may resonate because many of you have different portals, SharePoint, all different types of systems that you're looking to. They call this swivel chair type of analytics, where you're actually moving through different systems. But now he's looking at the internal system that's in LifeRay, and he needs to understand what stores need more inventory in the New York area. And as he's getting all this information, all of this is contextual to all the things that are going on. What started the day as, waking up happy, going and get some coffee, looking at the sales reports, went into reacting to the situations and being able to deal with this data that's changing and the impact throughout the organization and how is this going to be solved. Not by him only, of course, but by his team. So he has to go and take a flight to start solving this problem, but he has his handy old iPad there, and he decides to start checking on, who is he going to really look at for bonuses coming up and who is the highest rated call center reps in the Southeast. Has nothing to do with this problem, but it gives him the information that he needs. Now, what would he have to do in the past if he didn't have this mobile capability? He'd probably be sitting at his desk or calling it in and asking somebody for this information. But this is the power of this. This is the ability to take these different types of situational applications and use them wherever you are, wherever you go. So not only is the data and the problem changing, but you're moving and you're changing. And by the way, as he's moving around, there's many other people that are moving around and having access to this information. So just think about mobility here in the context of data, people, and problems all moving around at the same time. All right, Jess, thank you for the beautiful animation. Great work there. Well, so how does Presto actually solve this, and what are some of our differentiators? Presto is our real-time intelligence platform. And when we're talking about mobile BI, and we're talking about being able to get enterprise information, there's really three big facets here. There's the real-time access into information. So not only are we connecting into data warehouses and data marts that have historical information, but we're actually connecting into the live system, whether it's news feeds that we're pulling in, or my BI system, or my ERP systems, all the different types of systems. We're pulling in both internal, external, both hosted and SaaS solutions. That's our reality today, that there's no such thing as one anymore. Sometimes many of our customers actually have all the BI systems on the market, and some have many of the ERP and CRM applications. So they have this nightmare of trying to integrate in the past, which has failed, trying to put it all in one place that has failed, and realize, hey, maybe the best way to do this is just plug right in directly into the sources of information and get information as I need it. than trying to copy it and replicate it. So being able to plug right in securely to these sources of information, that includes the social media information that you have, and having more self-service capability with visual tooling to connect into this securely, to being able to put the data together, as we call it, mashups, being able to mash up the information on the fly as you need it versus trying to integrate it with a whole bunch of code that you have to get done by IT. And this is the speed and time to value. And then where does it go? So it's not just going to your portals or SharePoint. Now it's going to your devices, and it's going out and abound. And this makes IT nervous. They want to know, how do we do this securely? How do we deliver this information in a secure way? How do we make sure that at any point in time, if somebody is terminated or something changes, that they no longer have access to this information or these resources? So as we said before, it's not just BI data we're talking about. We think that there's a big transformation happening in the BI world, is that it's moving from pretty data warehouse, data mart centric into real-time or more live-centric. The whole ability to not just take social media that's constantly changing, but also information that's constantly changing in your organization that's considered operational. If I just need to look at my sales information for the quarter, you probably don't need a real-time operational system. But if I need to know what's happening up to the minute, and I need to know how my sales are being impacted by my data center network performance, by the weather outside, by my distribution center going down, then that's a lot of information from a lot of different places. I need to know it now. So some people call this the real-time enterprise, but ultimately this is where it's going. Add mobility to it. You're just by definition saying, if I'm looking at it when I'm moving around, I probably want to get the latest information. So all of this is coming together at a rapid pace, and the concept of live internal and external information is pretty much the way that people are going to be talking about BI in the future. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to show you a demo, and this is about accelerating information to value, and that starts all the way at the back end of the data, all the way to the user and the device and the portal. So in order to make this fast, you can't say that we're going to get these apps out to you quickly. We just have to wait 6 months before IT develops the integration into this. We're saying, let's get IT to do the security and the governance and the heavy lifting and all the policies and plans and build the building blocks for us, but let's be able to move more towards the business to be able to connect directly into these data sources and mash up the data so that I can create more situational applications. Why can't I call into my analyst and say, I need to know this information, have them build a dashboard for me in under an hour and deliver it out to me right on my device? I should be able to do that now with the security and governance and technologies. So I want more point and click and wiring things and dashboard creating, and you'll hear us talk more and more about dashboards, because if I'm looking at all this information, dashboards really lends itself to this metaphor of how do I look at all this information that's happening in context for my situation, for my problem, and that's why tablets are so optimized for this type of problem. It's because they have the appeal from the look and feel, the aesthetics, but they also have that real estate that we need for dashboards. So being able to put this all together and create it quickly means that you have to have a platform or an architecture in place to do that. So Presto, as being a platform that allows you to do this through the tooling, is really moving closer to this self-service as the whole industry is how do we create these things very quickly ourselves and being able to deliver the value faster. So part of what you saw in the Presto app is in Presto Mobile, you notice you downloaded a native app, and that native app is both for the iPhone and iPad. So that's a native app that you can get on your App Store, like many of you did. But when you log in, you're actually logging in to the back-end server that is running behind your firewall. And the way that we do it, and this hybrid approach, is really has a lot to do with the enterprise's speed and scalability. The initial thought was, why don't we just replicate what Apple does for the consumers in the enterprise? Why don't we just get teams and build native apps and deliver those out? Well, of course, think of IT and think of how do I manage the devices? How do I wipe the data? How do I distribute all these installable apps. So all my devices that I have throughout the world becomes what they call mobile data management nightmare. How do I handle all this stuff? And also what we've noticed is that writing native apps actually takes quite a bit longer to do than we do with HTML5 or web apps. So if you merge the two together, if you provide a native app as your portal into your enterprise and as a single point of entry, then you can actually have access to your web apps or your web views dynamically. I log in, I see only the apps that are available to me, and I'm able to run these views and get the apps right inside my native app. All secure, all contained, all controlled. If I'm cut off access or my permissions change, I'll no longer see it. I no longer have access. There's no storing data on the device. There's no having to go manage the device and wipe it. I just don't have access to it anymore because everything is delivered live. This means that I'm plugging into the identity management system that you have in place, which is no small feat, by the way, and being able to go and authenticate and secure the user, and being able to propagate that information, put policies around all these enterprise information sources. Think about opening it up to SaaS solutions, partners, social media, and you think, wow, how do I put this security around this whole thing, because now it's just becoming an information nightmare. So by being able to do this and organize it architecturally this way like we do with Presto, you're able to deliver this on the fly, in real time, and securely. Okay, so even though we say apps in minutes, without the talking, without the presentation, you can do these yourselves. You can download Presto and actually build these yourselves, and you can build them in minutes. What we're going to do here is we're going to show you how we can build more sophisticated apps and dashboards, actually, and be able to deliver those very, very quickly to you. So we're bringing back Chris, and he's going to expand on what he's done before, and he's going to build the dashboard. All yours, Chris.
No problem. So, John, tell me if I missed anything good. There's a lot here I could point out. I'm starting at where we kind of left off before. We created a single view of our cars, trucks, vans, and boat sales. And these were actually, this turns out that somebody in the audience pointed this out. I put a $ sign in front of this. I shouldn't have. This was just unit sales, right? This is the number of each of these that we sold each month. So what's the next logical question? Well, numbers are good, but how much money did we make? I think that'd be the next, you should do me a little analysis. Don't just show me the raw what is. So instead of actually going and creating that from scratch, I decided to click on one of the many links that are attached to this view of information, and it's called Related Items. And the Related Items is one of those things we talked about before where users can build on other users' stuff, assuming, of course, you have permission to. So in my case, you'll notice that this one little data source that has just our raw total unit sales. And remember, we're all product managers here. We're always trying to do better sales. Has an awful lot of stuff that's been built and related to it. And the one at the very top, I think, it sounds good, right? It says average revenue per product. And it doesn't say that it's an app. It actually says that it's a mashup. And that's important, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's got information in it that we don't necessarily store in any of our core data systems. We don't calculate averages and store them. This is something that actually Presto has added on top of some data or data sources, right? So I like that. In fact, I like the look of this. It's exactly the same information or kind of time period we were looking at before. You'll notice that there's actually some color highlighting for anybody who drops below, it looks like a $1,000 threshold, about $1,000 of revenue per unit of whatever. And so I think this might be information I can actually create kind of a better collection of views on. In fact, it looks like there's at least one other view here, which is a simple line chart. And you'll notice there's a very nice spike, for instance, in our truck revenue in May. But we'll get back to that in a minute. So let's add some other views. And I did this fast before. I'll go a little slower this time. There are a lot of different ways that you can visualize data. I think we all know that by now. And of course, sometimes the visual is the thing that makes the data real. For instance, that simple set of tables that I was looking at before, it's hard to read, even with some of the red color highlighting. So for instance, maybe what I want to do is I want to do a pyramid, because I want to know what comes out on top, right? And I don't want to have to figure out that myself. And in this case, I'm only interested in the average revenue per car. And I want to know what months where that's the biggest and where that's the smallest. So I'm now starting to get some value add out of my information, right? This information calculated. And it's also on top of it, I can actually kind of formulate it in some sort of easy visual for myself. So this is revenue, so of course I will get it right this time. Thank you very much. I'll put a $sign. And we'll even go into advanced mode. John, I don't know if there's any spot on advanced mode that's meaningful to you. I will choose maybe something that's really easy for me to do, for instance, something like a quick change in the visual style of the page.
Yeah, this could be one of the, what you're seeing a trend happening now too, where we're used to the pixel perfect reports that have come out. Now it's getting into pixel perfect dashboards. This is going from not only data to visualization to user, but it's going all the way up the management chain. We've heard in cases where these dashboards land on big screen TVs outside the data center so customers can see them as they're walking in. So these things have to look good, and they have to look good right from the start. So aesthetic and look and feel is a big part of this.
Okay, so I have a simple visual, and this is a different kind of cut at the data, right? We're not looking at all the different products. In this case, we're actually looking at specifically one of our products, and I like that view. And maybe what I want to do is complement that view with a different way of looking at it. So let's take a simple bar chart in this case, and I'm going to actually do a comparative. So I'm going to put up revenue per car. I'm going to compare that to revenue per truck month by month. And in fact, I'm not going to put them together. I'm going to put them side by side. So I'm going to get the stack, if you will. So this is a comparative, right?
Yep.
And of course, this is actually average revenue. And we'll skip all that advanced stuff this time. I just want to get to the visuals, so I can see where cars outstrip trucks and vice versa in terms of revenue per average revenue per unit. Of course, I can go through the same thing we did before, where take a look at how these things view in different form factors, right? For instance, I think that's maybe a little messy, a little jumbled, but it maybe cleans itself up here or not. So maybe this isn't necessarily a view I like for iPhones in the future. So this is comps, right?
Yeah. By the way, so people are asking, what you're seeing here, these apps that you see running, when you're accessing them on the iPhone and the iPad, you're accessing directly from the native app. But these apps can also run in any standard web browser on the mobile device. The same apps that you're seeing here can also run on Android. So even, and you'll see in the tablet view and the smartphone view, it's not just for iPhones.
Well, in fact, I'll do that. Tell you what, let me take these 4 different views now, right? I've got a grid that has some color coding. I've got the kind of the average revenue related for all our product lines. Of course, I've got my comparative months for just my cars, so that I know what my best and worst months are for car sales. And then comparing cars and trucks month by month. And I'm going to go and take all 4 of those, I think, and I'm going to use that as a collection. And so I'm going to go and take all 4 of them. You can see them on the screen. I'll pick. We can pick, how we want to organize them. So, for instance, I think that the car revenue by month is perhaps maybe one of the most important things that's on the screen. And then after that, we can pick the visual styles. And we went through this really quickly, I think, before. You'll notice since I picked 4 different ways of looking at this information, that the default view, the person chooses for me, is some sort of tabular view. And keep in mind that this is where I think the rubber really meets the road. Because remember, I have different devices. Right? So in this case, I have a tabular view, which actually might work fairly well in iPhone mode, or not. In which case, later, when I get to that step that I skipped over before, I can choose whether I actually make this collection of information available to those different devices. I actually don't think this looks very good on phone, but I think that I have an expectation that this might lay out really well in iPad, especially if I go to the second step and I go and choose maybe a different way of displaying the information. So for instance, let's choose the 2-column layout. And this usually comes out at least a little bit better because you'll notice that I actually get a better display of the information here. And remember, this is a stimulated view, so I can actually kind of get an idea for the experience that the users are going to do. So user takes a look at the different pieces that I'm putting on the tablet, and then if they want to drill in, I can actually test how the drill in and the drill out kind of works as well. I don't like that view, so I will go with the last view, I think, which is just simple stacks right on top of each other. We'll pick some of the simple theming, right? And if we want to, keep in mind that we often talk about operational data, so that even the stuff down at the bottom, where I can actually have my views of information automatically be refreshed. In many cases, and I think this may not be one of them, but in many cases, the information is moving so quickly that a 5-minute refresh or even a 15-second refresh would make this much more meaningful than if it just sat here as a static set of views. So I think that's the layout. Oh, let's go back to the tab layout. That's the tab layout probably the best.
Yeah.
Like tab layout? Okay.
Yeah, it was a little better.
Yeah.
And that auto refresh is important here because part of this is how do I get the latest information? And you may not want to have this information changing in front of you, but you may want to have it automatically updating. So the ability for you to just quickly go and say this is changing or updating every minute and going out to the live sources, that may be the perfect time that you want. So that's an extremely important thing, is that this isn't just about having information delivered exactly as it happens to you. This is about how often do you want to see the changes of the information.
Absolutely. So back to one of the original questions. So this app is now done, right? Actually, I called it a dashboard because it's got a lot of parts to it, right? Like many dashboards do. I can actually do many things with this at this point. And again, remember, I'm still the non-techie. Even though I created them, I'm still the non-techie. So for instance, I could go to the publish menu, and we did this one, right? We pushed it out to what we call the app depot and made it available for our mobile users who have, Presto mobile for iPhone, iPad. We can also push it directly to some of those portals that I think you used in one of your examples earlier. If we wanted to just bury it right in the middle of an active website, even I know how to take a piece of code and cut and paste it into HTML. We could go through any of those, any or all of those options. And then if we wanted to, we could get, I think, closer to home what the original question was. Did somebody in the audience say that they had like an Android or a...
Yeah, they were asking about Android as a specific.
Absolutely. So, of course, you don't have to go through, those native applications that we've made available for Apple users. You can share any app, any collection of information from Presto directly with any user, whether that user has a phone or a tablet or a browser or a portal. And that, I think that's kind of why I think we work well in the world of operations, right? Because those people move from place to place, they have all these different things they're accessing. So you can see on the screen, if I wanted to send email directly to a user, just to say, take a peek at my revenue dashboard and tell me why we have a big spike on truck sales in May, I could do that, and I could share it straight through with other Presto users if they're actually in the Presto, if they're, if they have user credentials here, or I could send it directly via email. As a guest access, so that anybody, no matter where you are, as long as you've got email, can do it.
And this happens to be a big use case where you may be on the road and you just don't have the dashboard that you need, and you call back and it's created and then sent right out to you.
Right. So I think last but not least, I saw one of the questions in the question screen. I waved my hands over this concept of average revenue. And average revenue doesn't come out of a database somewhere; it was calculated. And someone asked, go figure, how does that work? So, like I said before, there was a mashup on that related items list, and that mashup is what we use to kind of create our views. So, what I'd like to do is go back to that mashup and maybe quickly show you a critical step, I think, in the whole process, which is the process of creating kind of a combination of data that we call this, of course, here, Jack, we call it the mashup. There's a part of our product, in fact, that's very, very sophisticated called wires. And I'm not going to do it, but I'll certainly at least show it because I think it's as visual as everything else we've done today. When I wanted average revenue per product, how do you do that? Well, it's simple math, right? I need to know what we made on each product line, and then I need to know how many units we sold in each product line. And Marvin can tell you that at least he's got a little app, on his iPhone that tells him how many units we have sold by car, by truck, by van for the last 6 months. What Marvin didn't have, but what I can publish to him now if I wanted to, is the average revenue, because I can actually take the revenue by product from one database. And in fact, I'll at least show you some of the moving parts of this mashup so you get the idea. So here's the revenue by product by month. And then, of course, here's the unit sales, which come from a different system in our organization. We join them, we do the calculations, we filter the data a little bit, and then that is the mashup that we just built. Well, actually, that we just built our entire dashboard on. So this is a critical step. You don't always get exactly, you never get exactly what you want out of some sort of database. This mashup, I think, is what kind of makes operational information the right information to deliver to someone like Marvin.
And of course, it's not just databases. We're consuming information from databases, SharePoint lists, Excel, web services, you name it. And that's really the key here, is that if you just went from data source to visualization, you would be spending a ridiculous amount of time trying to get the information in the way you wanted it, filter down. To get it aggregated, it doesn't make any sense to do it in the app. So doing it in the server, doing the mashups, is by far the fastest and most efficient way to do it.
Yep. Are there any other questions that we can answer from the audience?
No, I think that
I'll publish this one into the app people so that everybody can play with it as well.
Okay, so just like anything else, you'll publish this, and will be published just as a tablet app, so people who have downloaded the iPhone won't be able to see it.
Yeah, in this case, I didn't check the iPhone box. So for those users who have custom mobile for iPhone, they hit refresh. They won't see anything new.
Right. And what you're looking at here in this activity stream,
okay.
That's actually everything that's going on in the system. So as people are creating things, you can see everything that's going on. Everything is, of course, secured and governed, meaning that if you don't have the right to see things, you're not going to see it. If you don't have the right to execute or run things, you're not going to see it.
In fact, you can see it. As someone, I'm guessing, someone in the audience actually even prompted that I think Marvin would probably like the demo episode for. Maybe that's even Marvin. You know.
Okay, great. So anything else to show, or are you all done?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
Again, I think if there's any questions from the audience or any other...
No, we're pretty good. So, all right, so that's really, that's a quick move through of it. As you can see, the mashup capability that we have is extremely powerful to be able to create visual mashup of the information. And also there's for the developer types, there's an underlying declarative language that allows you to get underneath and do even more sophisticated things if you need to. And this is really about doing things faster. So this isn't about going and creating large applications. This is about creating smaller applications that are BI-centric, information-centric, information that's changing. Think maybe that we didn't call BI in the past. There's a lot of debate in our customers whether some things are BI, some things aren't BI. Some believe if it doesn't only come from a data warehouse, it's not BI. Others believe that if it's information and if you're interacting with it and it's meant for people to take action on, then it is BI. We believe the same. But now with capabilities like we have, you're able to connect into things that we haven't been able to do before. And most of the cost came behind people, loads of people, getting dumps in Excel and trying to put the information together to get out reports and dashboards. So everything that you're seeing today is really trying to compress the time and the cost. If we can reduce the time that it takes to put the information together the way we want and to get it out in the form of visualizations, apps, and dashboards, and we reduce the number of people that are involved in putting it together, we actually expand the reach in which we can get people, the information workers, the workers who actually make decisions. We can expand that reach much faster and farther. And just with the whole mobile capability, we have this tremendous opportunity to expand the reach outside of the walls of your organization where we were, in the past just limited to email. Now we can actually have mobile BI or real-time intelligence. So this is all about the reduce the time, overhead, and reducing the cost to get you faster information and faster value. So we think that the way that we do it from a hybrid approach is extremely scalable and secure. It's not mutually exclusive from doing a all-native approach that organizations try, but this is definitely an approach which we have proven with our customers that extremely successful in being able to move at a fast pace and deliver applications very quickly according to standards, and also with the experience and the performance that you need. So everything that you're seeing today was done live. Everything is actually delivered to you live. There's no smoke and mirrors here. So everybody's hitting things at the same time, running off the servers. Of course, we're running it on the cloud so that we make it publicly available to you, but you would most likely be running your servers inside your data center or inside the your firewall. We can run anywhere, cloud, internal, both. So we're very tightly integrated with the agile architectures that are out there and being able to deploy very easily, not just develop easily. And we think that the solution really will help you guys move your mobile strategy much farther, much faster. Okay, so we want to just wrap it up, and we'll just leave you with that everything we've shown you is really about optimizing the time and speed and interaction you have on your mobile solution. We'll have more information and webinars coming next year, and you can come to our site anytime. You can download Presto, and you can have download the Presto Mobile like you may have already done and have access to all the demos that we have and experience it yourself. So now I'm going to hand it back to Jess, and she's going to give you some parting words and tell you some takeaways.
Great. Thanks, John. So I just want to thank John and Chris. I think you guys did a great job with today's presentation, and I think the demonstration was very compelling. Hopefully by now we've showed you enough good stuff that you're asking where you can get this, and that's very easy. On our Mashup developer community, that's available at jockey.com/dev. Right at the top of the screen, you can see the 2 native apps that we have available on Apple's App Store, and then also the Presto Mobile add-on, which is available in our latest Presto 3.2 release. So please visit that site and download our Presto Mobile add-on. And also, I'd like to thank everybody today for your participation. We had some really great questions. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, we'll certainly follow up with you guys individually through email. The presentation is being recorded, and the slides from the recording will be available today on jockey.com. Thanks again. We look forward to seeing you in the next year.